It's a great honor at the Fixed Ops Roundtable to get a chance to meet with and speak with the best in the business. And Kevin Deutsch, who is the general manager of Butler Lexus, South Atlanta, is certainly one of the very best. Kevin, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks, Ted. It's great to be with you guys. I appreciate the invite.
Kevin, I appreciate, and our audience appreciates you being with us today. You have a tremendous name in our industry and have contributed and done so much for retail automotive. And you are a leader, in the entire automotive retail world. And I really appreciate you being here.
Oh, I appreciate that. I don't think I deserve that kind of accolades.
And what's funny is there are so many folks, who've been on the show and, where your name comes up or I mention, and they know Kevin Deutsch. And, give us before we talk about your dealership and your dealership group today, tell us a little bit about you, Kevin. How'd you get into the car business? I mean, I know I met you about 20 years ago, but kind of fill us in.
It was, I just got out of college and kind of fumbling around, had no idea what I was going to do. And my sister was actually dating a guy who was a sales manager at a Dodge store. And he's like, Kevin, you really need to come sell cars. And I said, no, I don't need to come sell cars. I promise you. That's not what I just went to school for. I just, and he goes, no, he goes, I'm going to give you a brand new car to drive and no insurance payment. And I'm going to give you a 5-day work week, and I'm going to guarantee you this much salary. And I'm like, well, that sounds pretty good to me with the new car. So it was the 3 Ds, a demo, a draw, and a day off that kind of sucked me into the business, and had a whole lot of success my first month, and kind of never looked back.
Yeah. And so you, like we started off in the front end. And when I met you, you were in charge of the entire training operation for Group 1 there in Atlanta. And I know you and I spent a lot of time together and, got a chance to really go through a lot of fixed operations things together.
Yeah, I just sold out of a store and I was the in variable ops and training for Group 1 and was looking for something for the service drive and met you. And we built a true relationship while I was there, and then continued the relationship after I actually bought back into my old dealership.
And so you've been on the dealer front for a long time, Kevin, and you've worked with some great luxury brands, Mercedes and now Lexus. And what are some of the nuances, towards your guests, your customers, that you've seen that have maybe changed, over the last several years, and that have, continued to keep up and kind of set the pace for the customer experience?
Well, I think that transparency and technology go hand in hand, and there's so much access to the customer's fingertips 24/7 today that you had better change with that access. And like I said, I think that the transparency is so important. And I think that your people need to have more knowledge than ever. And you better bring more value to the table through your people and your processes.
Do you know that word, Kevin, transparency, has really surfaced to the top in the last 6 months to a year in fixed operations? And Kevin, where did you or I ever hear the word transparency, right? When it comes to service and parts. And I know we started hearing it first on the F&I and the variable side, right? And there was, as we know, some resistance to that, but customers really dig the transparency, and it's time, like you just said, for service and parts and body shop to embrace that.
Well, I think that when we got a lot smarter in trying to figure out why customers defected away from dealerships and really digging into that, we found out that we really probably weren't really good guys. And where they defected to was very transparent. It was $49 for an oil change, not I hope $89 and no telling what else was going to come.
Yeah. And you're right on the technology side, that's really, the customer has that access to so much information. And you're right. Our people have to have that information as well in order to interact. And Kevin, it's only going to continue. Everyone interacts now, on their phone. and that continues to grow and set the pace. And you use that throughout your entire fixed operations, I understand as well.
Yeah, we do. There's a lot more available to us as dealers. So when a customer comes in and we open the RO, the Lexus system is the TIS system now. It automatically pulls up the history. So we know recalls, we know the history, we know whether they've been into the store. And the customer's number one way of communication today is text. People, it's more convenient. They don't have to stop really what they're doing or pick up a phone. A lot of people that are old like me and you still want a phone call. They want to communicate that way. But 80% of our customers say just send me a text, and they can pay and pick up their car via the text. Now they take a picture of their credit card, sign right there on their phone, and we've really eliminated a lot of time and wasted effort for our customers by just listening to them and embracing what's out there.
And you were already doing a lot of this prior to what happened 2 years ago. But I think it's the rest of the car business that suddenly had to embrace doing that. And you already had a great head start on the rest of your competitors.
Yeah, it's funny. I was in a meeting with Lexus yesterday, and we actually talked to or began, now we didn't put them all together, obviously, 2,865 deals last year through our digital retailing tool. So at some sort or another, we had communication through our DR tool with a customer. Who would have ever thought of that?
Wow.
Because remember, we're the guys who said, the internet, what's that?
And boy, has everything changed. You also told me, and this is going back a couple years, that you were using video with your technicians on declined services. This is way before that got embraced, by the general dealership population. Talk about that and how that's impacted your business.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I measure, and we really look at it every day, is the use of media. And we request a lot of ASRs. In fact, we've requested over $1 million of ASRs already this year. And we close at about 25% without using media. If we're using media, we close at about 64%, which is either video or pictures, and then through text or email, sending it to the customer and communicating what's going on with their car. It's back to that transparency and that trust word. It builds a lot of trust. If you tell someone they have a torn boot, they don't really care. If you show them and then explain what's going to happen if they don't, then they'll probably replace it.
And you're also a leader, to take that just a step further, in the advertising and marketing and the way you keep in touch with customers. And you just mentioned text. Take us a little bit further through some of the things that you do, at Butler Lexus South Atlanta.
Well, there's a handful of things that we've done differently. We used to advertise the way everybody advertised in fixed ops, and now we look at it a little bit more granularly. We do have a way to go back after our decline services and to work with them and to find a way to put a lot of that together. We now advertise through text. We have the ability to actually send our advertising out through text. And if I can keep a customer, it is tremendously more cost effective than going out and hunting them down. So we take care of the people we have. We still do a lot of advertising, traditional, but with a 30,000 customer plus 30 customer base, by staying in touch with them and sending the right message to the right customer at the right time, it does help. And that's what we've concentrated on instead of just sprinkling it here and there and hoping that it lands on somebody.
You've got, I think you mentioned to me about 10 service advisors. Is that right?
Correct. We have 10 service advisors, and there's always 8 valets and about 22 techs, and growing.
Talk to me about that, because I know you're a leader in alignments, and there's a lot of technology now that you deploy at your dealership, with that drive over technology. Talk to us about that and how you utilize that as well.
Yeah, it's when you pull into our service lanes, I do have the machines that's going to check your alignment. I am going to swap them out for the 1-2 check tire depth also. But I've got the alignment machines, and it pulls up obviously the information on the car, checks the alignment, and then from there, my advisors can give them a printout showing them green or red or what we need to do, and it makes it much easier to sell the alignment. We have the problem we ran into is when I bought the machines, I only had one rack, and we couldn't keep up. It was you can do 9 or 10 a day, and that's it. So in my recon area, I had an extra space, and I took the old rack and put that in there. So now we run with two, and we can do 18, 20 a day. And from there, that's how you keep the tire business and selling tires and keep their maintenance, and people don't defect from you. And the real benefit that's helped is when a car pulls through, it takes 36 pictures of that car.
Wow.
So now I have extra protection against, well, you did it this or you did this. We take pictures with the customer when they get out of their car and have the additional 36 pictures for when they pull in.
I see that only growing. Dealers are going to be utilizing. I mean, it's still new to a lot of dealerships, that technology, right? But I see now there are several companies that are in that space, and I see the use of that automated inspection, if you will, including, like you just said, the tires, because it's so important. That we're talking tires with customers also.
Yeah, so I was a little slow to this game. I have a dealer tire rep that will work in my dealership full time beginning in May. And they will talk to the customers and sell the tires on top of the advisors. And we're looking to double our tire volume.
Wow. And Fred Bean's a good friend of yours and mine. In fact, I met Fred through you, Kevin, right?
Yes.
Fred has been on this show and is very much big time in the tire business, where a lot of dealerships are not. But yet that defection that you mentioned, in a lot of times that happens, it starts to happen then when the customer needs their first set of tires.
That's exactly right. No, I learned a lot from Fred. Fred is one of my number one mentors. He's been there for me for a long time, and could not be a more important person or a better person to learn from.
That tire business, and Tully Williams from the Nilo Group, who's been on our show several times, says that one of the reasons that advisors don't offer or sell tires is if they don't believe in it themselves. And if they don't believe in it, they're not going to talk about it and show the tires. What's your thinking on tires?
I think a lot of it is the time. I'm in a luxury store, so I have the ability to I've got a fleet of 75 loaner cars. So if I'm selling tires, I can put somebody in car, and we keep 5 or 6 cars per day that we schedule around to make sure they're available for upsells on alignments and tires. So we don't have we can eliminate the time problem. So that's something that we identified as a concern and was able to rectify it.
Wow. We mentioned Fred Beans, and I know Fred is one of your mentors, Kevin. Interestingly enough, Gary House, another great mentor, right, is doing a panel on the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And I actually had Gary on the show 2 years ago with interviewing Brian Benstock, okay, to find out how he was doing this service pickup, this new thing called service pickup and delivery at a time when dealerships, we're just starting to learn about that. I know Gary's a mentor as well. Kevin, you've met so many people along the way in your career. Anybody else come to mind for you as a mentor? Somebody who's helped shape Kevin Deutsch and make you, into the operator that you are today?
Well, Ted Ings taught me to speak in public. So that was pretty good.
No way. No, that's not.
Yeah, that is. You and I toured quite a bit together. No, there's been some really important people in my life. A guy named Fred Berlanti, I spent 25 years with. You can learn a lot from somebody in 25 years with the success he's had as a multi-franchise, multi-dealer. And he gave me my opportunity from salesperson to being a dealer. He followed through, made me a general manager at 27 years old. So, I would say a lot to Fred. Fred And I actually met Fred Beans through Gary House.
Wow.
That's Gary introduced the two of us. So that was
Wow.
pretty monumental moment, and spent a lot of time with both of them.
Kevin, you're very successful, and we're talking to Kevin Deutsch, by the way, the general manager of Butler, Lexus, South Atlanta. Kevin, looking into the rest of 2022 and into the near future for our audience, we're hearing a lot of things about EVs, that are coming. There's going to be changes along the way. There's a lot of different perspectives on that. Okay. What do you think our audience needs to be preparing for, looking at, for the future, as we look into the rest? Here we are in the middle of May, looking into the rest of this year, and, to make sure that we're ahead of the curve.
Well, that's a heavy question right there. I would say get your facilities ready and don't overbuy right now, because what you're buying today is probably not going to be what you need 5, 6, 7 years from now. As we transition into solid state, everything's going to change, including the chargers. So there's a lot there. I would say get into the tire business. The weight of these cars is unbelievable, and they just chew up tires. And we're all worried about, traditional business going away. But everything that I talk to, and I get a lot of information. I'm on the dealer advertising board for Lexus. So we see a lot of numbers. And it looks like in 2030, we're still going to be 85% naturally gas aspirated. So it's not going away. But part of the business is what we lose possibly in everyday maintenance and service, we're going to more than pick up in parts, because everything is drop and replace. And I'm going to tell you, we own an Audi store, and I hate to tell you what we just picked up in profit on a battery for an EV.
Wow.
It was beyond your imagination. So when you start picking up money at that rate for just handling a transaction, which is shipping in, shipping out, and then you get to do the labor too. And it is highly skilled labor, because it's different labor dealing with that type of electricity. Our future is great. We just need to continue to grow with it.
One more question, if I can, like the Detective Columbo used to say, Kevin, reconditioning. We have had so much talk now, because with what's happened in the market in the last year, and we've had so much talk now on the Fixed Ops Roundtable about reconditioning and the focus on that now, and the importance of, days to market, getting the vehicles ready. And I know that's been a passion of yours, going back as long as I've known you. Talk to us a little bit about reconditioning and your thoughts there.
I'm probably the wrong guy to talk to about that. But I won't buy the software, and the reason why is I want people to manage from their feet, not their seat. Mm-hmm. So I do have a reconditioning team and a super process. Starting with a trade walk every morning at 8:55 with the salespeople. So you have a manager. Me, if I'm in the store, I'm going. The service director goes on the trade walk, and the internal manager goes on the trade walk. So we're touching the cars right then and there and talking about them. At 11:30 every morning, the trade walk happens again with the service director, the used car manager, myself, and the recon manager. And then we do one again at 5 o'clock before anyone goes home. So 3 times a day, we're touching every used car that's not through the system. And if something gets, it just can't get left behind. That way, we are not relying on software or somebody to input something into a system, and the communication is wide open. So the only thing I would tell you, no matter how small or how big your operation is, get up, go touch it, and bring the important people with you.
Wow, great advice, Kevin. And you've always reminded me that we are not just in the car business; we're in the people business, and you make it happen. Kevin Deutsch, on behalf of the Fixed Ops community, I want to thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, thank you very much. I really appreciate you reaching out. It's always good to talk to you.
Kevin Deutsch, everybody, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.